Team, I haven't talked to you about Harvey Weinstein in a while. Probably since the earliest days of the Me Too movement. Harvey Weinstein was one of the first individuals to be accused in that slew of allegations that came out of men who had used their powerful, privileged positions to either coerce or to sexually assault and criminally violate women, depends on the specifics of the case, right? Charlie Rose, Matt Lauer, Harvey Weinstein, all these different figures that were caught in the Me Too movement's focus. And Weinstein is in the midst of a trial. It's been going on for a few weeks here in New York City. And it's a trial that could see him sent to prison for life. He faces a maximum count of life in prison for the allegations against him. And even if he were, just to put this out there, even if he were to be acquitted or if there were a hung jury here in New York City, he's also facing various sexual assault charges in California. So these are not federal charges. These are state and local charges in New York City. So the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is handling this. Now, I've been reading up on this case a bit because it's more interesting in terms of the legal angles of this than I think a lot of people would have initially anticipated. For one, there's a woman who is alleging that he raped her back in the 1990s, which is beyond the statute of limitations, but for Harvey Weinstein to be convicted of the top count against him, which is essentially sexually predatory behavior, this woman's account, even though he cannot be criminally charged with what she is saying, and she's also alleging a rape, can be used by the jury to determine whether Weinstein has engaged in sexually predatory behavior, effectively creating a scheme for his own, setting up. It's almost like premeditated murder. This charge is effectively premeditated rape through creating situations that will make it more likely that he'll be able to rape a woman, right? That's what's going on here. I'd never seen that before in a trial. I've never heard of that before. So it was something that I had learned about as a charge. I didn't know that you could have someone who's unable to bring their own charge like this woman, but that's used to assess the depth and the depth of the charges that are up against them. There are two women in particular who, although a lot of women have been testifying at this trial, two women have come forward to say that Harvey Weinstein either forcibly raped one or raped another in a particular kind of sexual exchange that I won't describe on the air. And he faces life. He faces up to 25 years, or he faces up to 4 years, I think, are the different possibilities here as we're waiting to see. The jury has been out. The phrase, the jury is out. The jury's been out for 3 days already, which means that they're thinking about this. When a jury comes back quickly, especially when you're the accused, you usually, in a case like this, you'd think, uh-oh, they think the guy's definitely guilty. Now, that's just a gut feeling people usually have with a fast jury verdict. This one's taking a bit more time, and they're asking a lot of questions. Going back to the judge, the jury foreman is asking a lot of questions of Harvey Weinstein. I'm sorry, about the Harvey Weinstein case. They're not asking Harvey Weinstein anything. I want to just put out there that you don't see this talked about very much. Harvey Weinstein was a close friend of the Clintons, a close friend of the Obamas, raised a lot of money for the Clintons. I mean, I bet he was on Hillary Clinton's speed dial for the last 20 years. So here's a guy who is at the center, not just of the Hollywood power apparatus, one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood. Remember, producers are the ones that, they get the movie made and they get to determine who's going to be in the movie. And they have a lot of authority, a lot of power in a business where there's many, many desperate people, particularly desperate, young, attractive women trying to break into the business. But Weinstein was at the center of the Hollywood power apparatus as well as the Democrat power apparatus. And you don't hear that. That's not a part of the focus. I just think it's so interesting how the Me Too movement, it's about bad men. But when you look at it, overwhelmingly, it's about bad men who are clearly Democrats and very connected into the Democrat power political power apparatus in one way or another. This is where you see a change or a omissions in the media narrative about what's going on here. It's always just Harvey Weinstein's a monster. Now, I'll just tell you from my assessment. I've read many articles about this. I haven't had the time to go through all of the court transcripts because it's been a trial going on for a month, and I got a life and I got other things I got to focus on. So just to be clear, there are some reporters who have been there all day, every day, and just essentially telling the public what went on that day. I've been following it in bits and pieces as I can. Here's what I take away from it. For one, they've completely wiped away that Harvey Weinstein is a close friend of the Clintons, specifically a major donor and bundler for the Democratic Party. And I think that, let's be honest, that helped him get away with this stuff for as many years as he did. He was connected. In fact, one of the women who's one of his accusers said that when he got on the phone, I believe it was with Hillary Clinton, that added to her sense of, I can't cross this guy. Look at how connected he is. Look at how powerful he is. Now, it's not a criminal thing, but it's just a perception about how he's connected to the very top. And when you're connected to the Clintons, as we know, very bad things can happen. But also, if you're connected to the Clintons, you can get away with a whole lot of stuff. Did Epstein kill himself, by the way? So, Hillary Clinton, close friend of Harvey Weinstein, and that gets pushed aside in all this. But then you look at the charges and the way that this case is being constructed, and I can tell you this, Harvey Weinstein's a bad guy. That's absolutely clear. And do I think that Harvey Weinstein probably in some of these cases transgressed criminally against women? Yes, I do. But if you're going to look at it charge by charge and determine, there's a huge range here. Could go away for 4 years for criminal sexual misconduct. Could go away for life in prison for predatory rape. Right? So this is a huge range of what the consequences for him could be. And you have to look at the charges one by one, the allegations. And something has come up here that there is a real debate around. And it has to do with some of the women that are alleging that he raped them, which, remember, rape is I'm just saying this to put this conversation in the proper context. We all know rape is a heinous and violent crime. It is a felony and one for which people can go to prison for up to 25 years in New York. So rape is, very, very serious. I mean, in terms of our criminal code, other than, crimes of violence and sexual crimes against children and murder, there's nothing more serious. And so then when you hear some of these women describing their relationship with Harvey Weinstein, you start to ask some questions like, hold on a second, you're telling this court, and I read these exchanges, I read the most important, noteworthy exchanges between the key witnesses here, and they're claiming that Harvey Weinstein, some of these women will claim that Harvey Weinstein forcibly raped them. And then within days, they're still talking to Harvey Weinstein, saying they love him or that he makes them feel so special. And one woman actually continued to have a sexual. So she says that he raped her, and then she had consensual sexual relations with Harvey Weinstein many, many, many times after that. This is complicated because it's very hard for a lot of us who approach this in good faith and wanting to protect women and knowing that all decent men feel a particular and solemn obligation to protect women. It's hard for those of us who approach this case with that in mind to see testimony from a woman who claims that someone committed a violent felony against her, and then not only was there a continued sexual relationship afterwards, but one that she sought out and initiated and continued to request favors from him, and I want to see you, and oh, I love you, and oh, you're so great. I think that's very tough. I think that's why this jury is probably sitting there saying, I think it's 7 women and 5 men. I might have that backwards, but I believe it's 7 women and 5 men. I think that's why they're taking some time to think about this, because the decision here about the degree matters tremendously. I mean, Harvey Weinstein, if they convict him on the top count, he's gonna die in prison. He's gonna die in prison. So that is that's a big decision. And remember, the standard here is beyond a reasonable doubt for a criminal case, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Does a reasonable person find it doubtful that Harvey Weinstein intentionally, forcibly raped a woman when that woman afterwards continued a relationship with Harvey Weinstein, sought out a sexual relationship with Harvey Weinstein, and showed him continued affection and perhaps even love in that over the duration of that? And as she was doing this, she was trying to derive benefit from her, professional benefit from her relationship with Harvey Weinstein. Again, I think Harvey Weinstein's a disgusting slob and a monster. Okay? Again, I think Harvey Weinstein probably did rape one or several women, but I'm looking at the specific allegations in the top counts here. I mean, The Nation, a left-wing, commie magazine, had a piece from one of its correspondents covering this saying, this guy, he could walk. He could walk. And it could also just be a hung jury, which I think is very possible. I would say hung jury, and hopefully by the time you hear this, we haven't already had a verdict, because then some of this will be moot. But I mean, meaning hopefully my prediction won't be past its due date on this. I think you're more likely to see a hung jury than you are to see a full-on acquittal. But this just goes to show you the way that the criminal justice system, the complexities of it, and how when you put things to a jury, you just don't know. And this question about consent and about what constitutes a forcible rape, what constitutes professional coercion that wouldn't be criminal, would be unseemly, but for which there would be professional consequences versus criminal consequences for someone. Hey, do this for me, do this sexual favor for me, and you'll get this job. Or is that something that someone's going to get sent to prison for? Generally, we think no. And it happens, and that happens in Hollywood as we know all the time. By the way, it happens in the news media a lot too, which people don't want to talk about because they think that some people will talk about it now, but it happens in the business that I'm in. And it's happened. Some of it has come out. I know of plenty of rumors about other stuff that hasn't come out about some very famous people that pretty much all of you would know. Maybe it's all untrue, just rumors, but there's stuff out there, right? About different people, about different powerful. It is men that are engaging in this behavior. It's powerful men. So what do I think is going to happen with Harvey Weinstein? I couldn't even tell you. I'm just saying that I think all options for this jury are really on the table, and they're trying to figure this thing out. It's a very hard sell for a jury, I think, that a woman is going to say, he schemed to forcibly rape me against my will, committed a violent felony for which he could go to prison for the rest of his life. And I knew that that's what he did, and I was upset that that's what he did. But then afterwards, I continued to not only, this isn't like being friendly to him in public, continue to have consensual sex with him for a long period of time, basically be his girlfriend or one of his girlfriends. That's a tough sell. And I think that in this era where we're seeing people being told, oh, before you have sex, this was just on the Drudge Report, I think, a few days ago, that there's this new movement where people are saying, well, get videotaped consent before you have sex with anybody who's, not your wife or someone that you just are trusting your life to anyway, right? But get videotaped consent before you have sex with somebody. And how this is a movement that's been starting, except you know what the problem with that is? Then the people that are part of Me Too and that are advocating for this idea that men are, it very quickly does transition into men are almost a hostile gender against women entirely, and we have to be on guard against them, and toxic masculinity and all these other thoughts come into play. But you've already seen, oh no, just because you get someone's videotaped consent doesn't mean that you're in the clear, because if someone afterwards, if the woman afterwards says she did not consent because she changed her mind after the video, well, now you're still facing rape charges, right? Or maybe she consented to sex but not certain sex acts or whatever it may be. So even if you get videotape, people will say, well, that's not proving consent. And you start to ask the question, what does prove consent then? Just verbal consent is not enough. Has to be video. Video consent not enough. Contractual consent, write it out. There was an app someone created a while back to get that. Is that enough? So these are all ideas that are, these get infused into this trial in different ways. What's somebody advancing their professional career and an exploitative, slovenly, grotesque mess of a human being versus what is a true criminal predator who should spend the rest of his life rotting in a cell, will die in a cell most likely. It's a big question that this jury faces right now, and we'll see how it shakes out. And it was very interesting reading about this because I think a lot of people I generally was like, I thought before I read about this, I was like, Harvey Weinstein, he's done. He is done. He's going away for at least 20, 25 years, right? And then I read I read some of the trial transcripts and read reporting on this, and I thought, I could see the jury deciding to go for a lower count here. Maybe the 4 years for the criminal sexual misconduct, or I could see a hung jury because there's some very big questions that were raised by that aggressive defense attorney, female defense attorney, and in the cross-examinations that you read. It's not open and shut. That's all I'm saying. It's not open and shut, that's for sure.
But as we keep on winning, Washington Democrats keep on losing their minds. They've gone nuts. That's why millions of registered Democrats, voters, people that were with the Democrats for a long time, they're leaving their party to join our movement.
I would like to believe what Trump is saying there. I think he's doing a bit of selling, a bit of salesmanship here instead of going on hard and fast numbers. But I also play that clip because, millions of Democrats joining the Republican Party, it's a nice thought. I am getting a little worried now that we've entered a phase of overconfidence on the Republican side. And we need to be very, very cautious against that. This race is there is not going to be a Mondale-style landslide. This is not going to be a crushing defeat in terms of the Electoral College for Democrats. Not going to happen. If we could get a repeat of 2016, that would be pretty fantastic. Maybe Trump flips New Hampshire. Maybe one or two other states go for him, which would be a big win, don't get me wrong. But this is going to be tight. We're going to be up late on election night. That I can almost guarantee you. And I see this sense among a lot of people who are Trump supporters, people that I know in my personal life, people that I see across the media. We're all kind of like, well, Trumpster's getting it done, but we live in crazy times, my friends. We live in times of mass hysteria and delusion, and the libs do not care what reality is. They're trying to conjure their own reality all the time. So we got to keep the eye on the prize here. Just a quick sort of COG announcement, Keep America Great announcement here. We got to keep fighting going forward. This is going to be a tight election.
I think that's the best thing to do because I'd love to see Roger exonerated, and I'd love to see it happen because I personally think he was treated very unfairly. They talk about witness tampering, but the man that he was tampering didn't seem to have much of a problem with it. I think they know each other for years. And it's not like the tampering that I see on television when you watch a movie. That's called tampering, with guns to people's heads and lots of other things. So we're going to see what it is. Maybe there was tampering and maybe there wasn't.
It seemed kind of like a joke between two people who know each other, but prosecutors, when it comes to getting Trump people in trouble, have no sense of humor and honestly pretend that they can't understand plain English. No surprise there. We want to bring in our friend Jesse Kelly. He is, of course, a host of The Jesse Kelly Show on radio, on the First here on Pluto TV, also down in KPRC Houston, and now syndicated. Congrats on the syndication, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. I think everybody knew it was inevitable, Buck. I mean, I'm just so interesting, and what I do is so important.
I think it's important that everybody gets a chance to just hear how amazing you think you are, and there we go. That's the best way. That's the best way to do it.
That is the best. That is the best way to do it. And look, because I'm such a huge fan of myself, obviously I appreciate all the other fans, but I really already have my best fan right here in house.
Now, what do you think about what should happen next with Stone? I think pardoning him is a little much because Stone was being a little bit of an idiot with some of this stuff. But I think a commutation, this guy shouldn't go to prison. But then again, if you pardon, it's going to drive the libs nuts. What do you think should happen?
I'll pardon him. And look, I have to be full disclosure. Even though I have avoided all things Roger Stone for a while, not intentionally, just because it wasn't something that interested me. So I actually don't know that much about even who Roger Stone is. I know he's a GOP operative. I know the basics of the case and what he's accused of doing. So it's not like I'm unaware of it. But I'm not some Roger Stone super fan or Roger Stone enemy. I just don't know the guy. But as soon as you, as AG Barr, as soon as the DOJ decided that Andrew McCabe, as former deputy director of the FBI, was not going to be indicted for lying multiple times under oath, then you have to pardon Stone. We have to change things, and it's not about Roger Stone. It's about the fact that in this country, it is building and building, and these idiots in D.C. don't seem to know it, that people are getting sick and tired of one set of laws for the big people in the government club and one set of laws for the rest of us. People are sick of that, and you would better start evening out those scales or there's going to be a problem.
It reminds me a little bit of how some conservatives switched over to, well, one, more just wartime conservatism. By the way, do you see there's a peacetime conservatism summit going on somewhere with like all the never Trumpers are getting together? They're basically all trying to like hold hands and talk to each other about how important it is to root for Democrats, because that's how you really help the Republican Party and conservatism, by helping the other side win. I mean, these people have completely lost their minds, but you know, they.
You know what's really funny about that Never Trump movement? I saw that, by the way. It was really actually, I found it to be kind of sad. Like, I didn't even make fun of them because it was so pathetic looking. A lot of these people used to be big voices in the conservative movement, and now they're stuck having like this 20-person conference, I'm sure, in the lobby of a Super 8 in the D.C. area somewhere, and it's just pathetic. And all it comes down to is pride, man. These were people who thought Trump was going to be a disaster, but look, that was me. I thought Trump was going to be a disaster, but then Trump turns out to be really good, and they can't just step up and say, hey, I was wrong. I missed it. The inability to just say I was wrong has cost a lot of people a lot of money in this lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm embarrassed now in retrospect, and I will say that about some of the very, very nice things I said about a would-be Mitt Romney presidency. I admit that I just yeah, he was better than Obama, but like that doesn't really say very much. And I wasn't like holding my nose voting for Mitt Romney. I thought Mitt would be really good in the role, and now I see Mitt Romney's a Romneyist.
Yes, now you figured out that he's Mitt Romney, and now that's a big deal. But look, I was the same way. I thought Mitt would be excellent, and I mean, look, we're all wrong. I mean, especially you, but not as much me. But everybody's wrong at some point in time in their life. It's just not that big of a deal to step up and say I was wrong. But for some reason, these people in this political game find that to be so difficult, or they look at it as some kind of lack of credibility. People understand when you're wrong. Just say I was wrong.
Now, where are you on the Democrat race? Speaking of how everyone's been wrong, I don't know if you've been. I haven't actually heard or seen you on Twitter on this one. I have been almost annoying in my repetition from the very beginning when he was ahead in all the polls. I was like, Biden's not going to be the nominee. Biden's not. This guy's a joke. Everybody who knows anything actually knows it. He's not going to be the nominee. Looking pretty good on that prediction right now, but I wanted to get your take on the Bloomberg, Bernie throwdown plus Warren, who I know is your favorite. I feel like you guys are probably DMing each other when no one's looking, but what do you think?
Well, Bloomberg's going to be the nominee. I've been telling everybody this for a month now. Bloomberg is going to be the nominee. Money talks. We are heading towards a brokered convention where you're going to have a bunch of people who either A, owe Bloomberg favors, or B, want to owe Bloomberg favors, and those are going to be the delegates deciding which candidate gets to be the nominee for Democrat, and it's going to be Mike Bloomberg. Every TV pundit is going to owe him favors. Every newspaper writer is going to owe him favors because he's buying up all this advertising for everybody. Mike Bloomberg has been banking a lot of favors for a lot of years on this.
Yeah, see, my take, and I said this yesterday on my show here in New York on WOR, I said everyone who's freaking out about Bloomberg's performance is forgetting that no one thought Bloomberg was going to have a good performance, and Bloomberg doesn't care, really. He showed up so that he can say, I'll show up, I'll take the heat, but he's going to win the election. He's going to win the nomination, rather, if he does win it, because of all those things that you said. There was no world in which Bloomberg was going to be on stage and be this dynamo who makes great arguments, is compelling, and doesn't seem like he's about to have a bunch of butlers carry him on their bare shoulders to his next appointment.
Well, we look at, I mean, and this is human nature. We all do this. We look at each debate in a vacuum, and we want to say, well, he won and he lost, and he got an A and a B. A debate is only if you won or lost the debate based on what you needed out of it. Did you get what you needed out of it? Amy Klobuchar needed to walk on that stage and look like the second coming of Christ, with everybody else looking like an ugly demon and her being the savior on earth. Not possible, but that's what she needed out of the debate. And, of course, she sucks on camera anyway. Bloomberg, with all his dollars, he just had to stand up there and not die for 2 hours, and he didn't die.
I totally agree with you. All he had to do was show up. Everything else is baked into the cake for him. And people that think, oh, it's all over, he had a terrible night. I'm like, a terrible night compared to what? You know, he doesn't even care what the people of Nevada think, for one.
No. What people are stuck in the old days, and they need to understand, and it's really important that we are in a new news cycle age these days. You know, let's say Bloomberg had the worst night ever. I actually don't think he did, but let's say he had the worst night ever. 48 hours later, that debate is going to be completely forgotten, and Bloomberg's still going to be on every television show. His mails are going to be in every single mailbox. He's going to be everywhere under the sun, and all those candidates who are landing all those petty shots on Bloomberg don't have the money to do what he does. It's overall, he did fine.
I like to present honest uncertainty. Now, I know you're perfect and never wrong, Jesse, so we can just skip past that. But I like to present honest uncertainty to my audience when I can. And I go back and forth on, you know, there's a part of me that feels like Bernie Sanders gets annihilated in the general election against Trump. I think Trump beats either Bernie or Bloomberg at this point. But if we're looking at who has a better shot, do you have a clear, because some days it feels for me like Bloomberg is more reasonable and will do better against Trump in the states that matter. And other days I'm like, Bernie's got an army of lunatics behind him. Who knows how that's going to shake out? Where do you come down on that one?
Oh, it's definitely Bloomberg. It's definitely Bloomberg. And believe me, I see the enthusiasm behind Bernie, and it does make me a little nervous. I'm not lying about that. But the truth of the matter is Bernie's, his lack of willingness, for lack of a better way to put it, to lie about what he actually believes is what's going to kill him. Like that fracking answer he gave the other night about, well, we're just going to have to find new jobs. That ends campaigns. Donald Trump would run that campaign from the second the primary ended to the day Donald Trump won 40 states in the general. Bernie Sanders is running openly on a platform to wipe out jobs in the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt that he needs to win the election. He cannot win. I really think Donald Trump would win 40 states if Bernie was a nominee.
No, I can't. I would be remiss if I didn't get some of your thoughts on your secret favorite candidate, Elizabeth Warren. Producer Mark, would you play that wonderful soundbite, clip 10, please?
I get it. I am not a woman of color. I never got thrown across the head. I have the privilege of never having been slammed into the wall by a police officer. But I tell you this, I listen to people who have. I listen and I say, when I am president of the United States, that is not going to happen here.
Two things. One, no, people will still get slammed up against the wall by cops because that's actually what police work entails sometimes. And two, what is this Elizabeth Warren saying that she's not a woman of color? What's going on here?
See, Elizabeth Warren has entered that phase of every campaign that from now on will forever be known as the Beto phase, where you are completely done. She knows she's completely done. Her staffers know she's completely done. Her donors know she's completely done. And so now you just throw any insane thing up against the wall to see where it splatters and hope to God you get some kind of traction. But in so doing, you drag down your entire party on your way out the door. It is called the Beto phase, and every politician does it now.
Yes, I think I agree that's the phase Elizabeth Warren is in. I also found one of her answers in the debate that didn't get a lot of attention was when she talked about how in the future with new technologies that would come about to deal with climate change, that she would make those companies, make them as president be here in America. And I'm just like, none of this makes any sense, and she doesn't have the power to do that. And does anyone care that, like, she's supposed to be the smart socialist? I don't see evidence of that.
No, the ultimate thing that the Democrats do, and this is again where Bernie went wrong with his fracking answer, and where he always goes wrong with it, is they have to keep things vague. And I realize I'm a complete partisan. I make no bones about that. But what Elizabeth Warren did during that answer you talked about was she got specific. And as soon as they get specific, you realize just how horrific the modern-day Democratic platform is. Their entire platform involves tearing apart the U.S. economy, spending money we don't have at all, and while all at the same time finding these random piles of money to chuck at their various victim groups trying to buy votes, and they're open about it. It really is monstrous.
My favorite thing is that I think we could do after because there's a debate next week. I want a panel of never Trumpers pulled together, like media never Trumpers pulled together. You know, I want to have Bill Kristol and Max Boot and Tom Nichols and, just go down the list of them, and like 5 or 6 of them. And then after the debate, they have to sit there and point out which Democrat they want to vote for instead of Trump and why. Because I think for people who, like Jennifer Rubin, obviously Jennifer Rubin's my single favorite of all of them. It would be so instructive for people to hear so-called conservatives who are never Trump explaining why, in some cases, they will vote for a socialist over Donald Trump.
Well, it just comes back to pride. Well, it comes back to pride, and let's be honest, it comes back to money. I mean, nobody likes to talk about this, but everybody has bills to pay. Everyone has to put food on the table, and so many of those people you just named, they're funded by left-wing mega donors right now because it looks good to have someone on the GOP ticket who's anti-Trump. They're funded by leftists. And the second a Democrat got elected president, they'd cease to be useful and those checks would stop coming. So they really haven't thought this through very well.
Yep, I agree. Well, Jesse, where should folks go to hear the Jesse Kelly Show?
It's right there. It's on the iHeartRadio app, at least for the next month and a half or so, and then it'll be on a radio near you.
All righty. Jesse Kelly, everybody, the man himself. Jesse, have a great weekend.
Be good, brother.
What I want to see us do is get off an oil economy, and not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. I want to see us move entirely to green. And let me say on this, I not only support a Green New Deal, I don't think it goes far enough. I also have a Blue New Deal, because we got to be thinking about our oceans as well that we need to protect.
Yeah, that's right. The Green New Deal, which is crazy. Not crazy enough for Elizabeth Warren if she's president. She wants to tackle the oceans. Oceans, as I'm sure you know, are very large. And there are a lot of countries that affect the oceans or that deal with oceans in a variety of ways, including the pollutants and the trash they put in them. People don't like to talk about this, but the whole plastics in our ocean problem is overwhelmingly a problem not of the developed world, a problem of Asia and coasts of Asia and coasts of some parts of Africa, countries that are still in the developing phase, or in the case of China, huge countries that have developed but just don't care. So the trash that goes into the oceans is not coming from us, but we will engage in a whole lot of very visible, oh, woe is me, America needs to do more about this. But it is true. I mean, we were just talking to Jesse about this. Elizabeth Warren has entered that phase where she feels like her only hope of a surge is to just say out loud what most Democrats and leftists know to keep to themselves. So it's entertaining, but just imagine that. The Green New Deal is not enough. Rebuilding every structure in America and getting rid of cow farts, not enough. Also have to tackle. I mean, this is from a government that tells us that they can't build, a wall, right? That's crazy. That could never happen on our southern border. Democrats tell us that can't be done. And yet we're going to clean up all the oceans? Or we're going to control the temperature? Really, it's to control the temperature of the oceans, which is even more insane. And as if that's not enough, Elizabeth Warren also wants you to know that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, maybe should just abolish their mission, if not that agency entirely. Play 19.
Two things about this. The first, I will do what I can do as president all alone. And that means I will make sure
that these raids that sweep through our neighborhoods stop. We will not engage in this kind of deportation. It is wrong.
Why is it wrong? She sits on the Senate. They write laws. The law says that you cannot be in this country illegally. Why isn't she trying to pass a bill to make it legal to just come to this country then? See, this is the game the Democrats play. They, in Congress, write laws. They can also repeal laws. But instead of having the courage of their convictions and just write a law that says we're open borders, no more immigration enforcement, they get mad at those who enforce the laws that they leave on the books. Because they're pandering, pathetic disgraces. That should be the Democrats' bumper sticker for 2020.